You know, Katrina Pierson, this woman, she doesn't live in a world of reality. Her sole world of reality is whatever Donald Trump tells her. And I guess she doesn't participate in the morning conferences on talking points. And then again, perhaps she does, because she's supposed to be the national spokesperson for Donald Trump. But, you know, it's amazing how when presented with facts, this woman does what all the Trump surrogates do. They spin away from the facts and want to talk about Hillary Clinton. It'd be nice if just for once they would speak specifically about Donald Trump, i.e. the question that they're asked about him, but they just can't seem to do that. I guess they get a bad case of allergic to Trump talk, and the only thing that cures them is bringing up Hillary Clinton. I'm going to play this clip for you from Ms. Pierson. And I mean, it's really bad. I kind of think that she's, you know, fairly, I'm not going to say super intelligent, but fairly intelligent. But, you know, she acts like, you know, she's in like the third grade and doesn't understand half the time when a question's posed to her.
Katrina, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So let's start with what we just heard from Robbie Mook. Is he right that the strategy now that you've had this overhaul of the campaign, is to double down on some of those conspiracy theories?
Well, look, this is something that Mr. Trump has said even during the primary last year, so this really isn't anything new. And this isn't a campaign overhaul. This is just simply the next phase, and in fact, the end phase. Mr. Trump was very much prepared for the...
All right, so much for this is not a campaign overhaul. You bring in two brand new people, Kellyanne, forget what her last name is, and this other guy, Bannon. And the guy Bannon, obviously, if you're not familiar with him, he's from Breitbart, so they're a conspiracy theory machine. And Manafort is out, so if you're not talking about an overhaul, you know, I don't know what is. Top guy's gone, two new people in. That's an overhaul.
Primaries, we had Corey Lewandowski, and then we had to cover the convention, which is why he brought in Paul Manafort. And now it's time to go into the general election and win. It's just not your traditional campaign, so people still have trouble.
When you say this is something that Donald Trump brought up during the primaries, do you mean the questions about Secretary Clinton's health? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, he has said that she doesn't have the strength or the stamina for a very long time. That part is nothing new. What's new are the other reports of the observations of Hillary Clinton's behavior and mannerisms, specifically with what you just showed in those previous clips, as well as her dysphagia.
Now that's rich, because I didn't know that Katrina had a medical degree in order to try to diagnose somebody with dysphagia. And you know, everybody knows Donald Trump just throws bullshit out there. And then you got the Breitbart bullshit, phony X-rays, and they get a couple of these quack doctors on that want to make a diagnosis. And the first thing a doctor will tell you is there's no way that you can make a diagnosis without physically seeing a patient. So, you know, we all know where that one's coming from.
She's fallen. She has had a concussion.
Hold on. There's no indication that she's fallen. Let's just step back for 1 second. We did get this reaction from her doctor. I just want to read that to you, who says, quote, as Secretary Clinton's longtime physician, I released a medical statement during the campaign indicating that she is in excellent health. I have recently been made aware of allegedly leaked medical documents regarding Secretary Clinton with my name on them. These documents are false, were not written by me, and are not based on any medical facts. To reiterate what I said in my previous statement, Secretary Clinton is in excellent health and fit to serve as president of the...
Right, and see, and that's her doctor, and the doctor's not gonna lie. and he's actually examined her. So anything else, as far as the Trump campaign putting out these bullshit theories, is just that, bullshit. But of course, Katrina's gonna go along with the bullshit theories.
United States. So these health questions have been debunked, Katrina, and yet Donald Trump continues to try to stir them up. Is that responsible for someone who's running for president?
Well, he's not talking about her health record. He's talking about specific observations, just like some of the clips that you've shown. And it is extremely important to note that Hillary Clinton has taken a lot of time off the campaign trail.
Spin up some of that speculation.
Well, it's something that needs to be addressed. She's taken a lot of time off.
It's already been addressed, Katrina. She just read you the doctor's statement. So it's been addressed and answered. So why do you want to try to stick on it?
The campaign trail. She hasn't had a press conference this year. Why don't we just have Miss Clinton have a press conference and she can answer all of these questions, including the 33,000 deleted emails, including the potential perjury charges she could come up with under Congress.
Okay, so now they're back to the Clinton spin, attack Clinton on everything else, but she doesn't need to have a press conference. She's got a statement from her doctor. So the medical side should be out the window already.
Including the dual activities that her staff was doing at the State Department as well as the Clinton Foundation, the pay-to-play allegations. There are a number of things that Hillary Clinton needs to be discussing that she isn't.
All right, I feel like there are 2 points you just brought up. The press conference issue, which is something that we've been tracking in the news media, but she hasn't taken a lot of time off the campaign trail. I've been on the campaign trail with her. I'm one of the reporters covering her. She hasn't taken a lot of time off the campaign trail, Katrina, but I want to just...
Whoops, Katrina, you got busted because you're talking to an eyewitness as to Clinton's activities, so I guess you can't say too much about that now.
Bring you back to this new order within the campaign, Stephen Bannon. He obviously comes from Breitbart. I want to get your reaction to some of the headlines that have been in his publication and just get you to respond to them. Some of them suggest Clinton has Parkinson's disease, that Clinton's top aide might be a terrorist spy, that Clinton has ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, and that she was responsible for murder. What do you think about those headlines and the fact that Mr. Bannon was the person at the helm at that time, and he's now running the Trump campaign?
Well, I can think of a lot of egregious headlines in some of the recent publications about Mr. Trump, but I don't have a response for the Breitbart articles because I haven't read those articles. I don't represent that organization, and therefore I can't give you an accurate assumption because I have not read those articles.
Okay, fair enough. Let me get your reaction to what some Republicans are saying. They're concerned that Mr. Bannon is now the one leading the Trump campaign. You have more and more Republicans who seem to be suggesting they're ready to jump ship. Let me just read you a couple of headlines.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that she's a national spokesperson for Trump, but she's so shallow that she's not aware of Breitbart and Breitbart's reputation. Now, whether you want to defend Breitbart's reputation or not, anybody worth their salt that has any type of political savvy would more than likely know about Breitbart. And if you're an African American, which she is, quote unquote, half African American, most of us are familiar with how Breitbart feels about black people. And if you aren't familiar with them, they are racist, and they basically take every opportunity to disparage black people.
Daniel Akerson, former GM CEO, writing, "I've always voted Republican until now. Trump simply lacks the competence to serve as president of the United States." Richard Cross writing, "I personally drafted the speech of the Benghazi mom. I may yet have to vote for Clinton because of the epic deficiencies of my own party's nominee." Montel Williams, also a Republican, writing, "Trump is worse than a clown or a bigot. He's an existential threat to our republic who cannot be trusted to be commander-in-chief." Your reaction?
Well, at least one of those individuals you mentioned was never a supporter of Mr. Trump. In some of your intro, those individuals were never a supporter of Mr. Trump either. Everyone has to pick their own position in this election. That's what elections are for, and for their own reasons. But what I can tell you is that 70% of the public feel like this country is going in the wrong direction. They don't want Obamacare. They don't want more foreign wars. They don't want Obama economics. They want change, and they want something different. And Mr. Trump offers that, and that is exactly why you see the excitement and the energy out there behind the Trump campaign.
Okay, and to counter that, at least 60% of the Republican Party don't want Trump because they voted for other people.
Well, and I guess the broader question here is when you hear, and to your point, maybe not all of them initially supported Mr. Trump, but these are Republicans, conservatives who are saying, we're not prepared to vote for the Republican nominee. Does that not give you some pause, Katrina? Does it make you concerned about the broader strategy right now in terms of Trump's ability to broaden his base and his appeal, which is what he needs to do to win the White House?
No, not at this point, and I'll tell you why. Because a lot of these Republicans are very comfortable with the way that things have been done in the past, and they're very comfortable with the establishment-like, politically correct politicians. But now that Mr. Trump is going to be running ads and telling people what his actual policies are, and not that which has been put out by the media, and we're going to see that contrast. Hillary Clinton is no friend to Republicans, and especially conservatives. And by the time we get to November, everyone will come together.
And let me just finally ask you about one more story that's been in the news this week. A number of African-American Republicans urging Donald Trump to broaden his outreach to African-Americans. Right now, Secretary Clinton, according to our latest poll, beats him with that group 91 to 1%. And yet, Katrina, he has turned down offers to speak to a number of African-American groups, including NABJ, NAACP. How can he make the argument that he is a candidate who's going to serve their interests when he has turned down these opportunities to go and speak to these communities?
Well, you're under the impression that he turned them down because he didn't want to speak to these communities. The NAACP meeting was right there during the Republican convention.
Right, the NAACP meeting was during the Republican convention, and he was only about an hour's plane ride away on his private jet. And if he had told them that he would speak to them in the morning, they would have been more than happy to make an accommodation for him to come and speak before them. So that excuse is not washing either.
The only one, though. What about the other offers that he's gotten? What about What about the NABJ? What about the other offers that he's gotten?
Again, there are absolutely scheduling issues. Mr. Trump has had several meetings with...
Yeah, it's funny how they got scheduled meetings, schedule issues to meet with the Urban League and other legitimate black organizations. But now she's going to bring up this bullshit diversity group that Trump formed with the 5 pastors that, in my opinion, are bought and paid for, led by Darrell Scott.
African-American organizations and groups of black pastors. We have a diversity coalition out there that has thousands of members of minorities that support Mr. Trump. He will...
That is so much bullshit. That organization does not have thousands of members. They're lucky if they got 100.
We'll continue to meet with other groups and organizations as we move along. Mr. Trump is committed to being someone that wants to represent everyone, which is exactly what you heard in his speech the other night, because there are several policies at the federal level that have to be fundamentally changed with the economy, with education and immigration that will actually help the African-American community, which is something the Democrats have been unable to do for decades.
Okay, let me just get one final question in there, Katrina, before I let you go. Yesterday, there was a striking exchange on CNN. We want to play it for you and get your reaction on the other side.
You say it's not a shakeup, but you guys are down. And it makes sense that there would...
Says who?
Most of them. All of them?
Says who?
Polls. I just told you, I answered your question.
Okay. Which polls?
All of them.
Okay. And your question is?
That was funny as hell. That was Trump's personal attorney, and he was acting like he didn't understand English when Brianna from CNN told him that Trump was down in the polls, and then he starts getting stupid like which ones, and then she goes all of them, and he really can't comment any further. And now Katrina's going to sit here and try to defend that crap.
So, Katrina, that was a representative for your campaign. Do you guys realize, have you accepted the fact that Donald Trump right now is down in the polls, the reality of this race?
Well, I haven't seen that segment, but it sounded like he couldn't hear the anchor, which wouldn't surprise me.
What a joke. That guy, she's saying he pulled a Trump when previously Trump was on air and was asked a question and tried to bullshit his way around it, and then came back a couple of days later and tried to claim that he didn't hear the question, but he was responding in real time to the question, just trying to bullshit his way around it. And that's what she's doing right now. It really is a shame that these Trump surrogates think that people are just plain stupid and are going to swallow all their bullshit. But when the bullshit gets that thick that you can't even dig your way through it, you just have to accept that you're standing in the middle of bullshit and there's nothing you can do about it.
But I will say,
no, he could hear the anchor. No, he could hear the anchor. That was not the issue, and he never indicated that was the issue.
We have accepted those polls. To answer your question, we have understood those polls simply because we are in a campaign. At this level, Ronald Reagan was extremely down and come
No, that's not true. She's lying again. At this point in the race, no candidate has been down as far as Donald Trump is down in the polls.
Remember, he won by a landslide. This is how elections work. Mr. Trump has not been able to get out there and put forth this policy, which you're going to see more of.
Yeah, but that's a lie too. If she says he's not been able to get out there, he had a 5.5-week lead on the Democrats because he had his race wrapped up 5.5 weeks before the conventions. So he could have been out there long ago, but he kept dropping bullshit and doing crazy ass things that basically tied the media up with stupid stories instead of him getting his quote unquote policies and positions out. So, that's another lie.
We have not been running ads, and we're getting ready to do that as well. And we still have the debates. This is a race.
Why is that? Why have you waited so late? Yeah, let's talk about that, because I know that you're about to launch ads in 4 different states, 4 big battleground states. Why did Mr. Trump wait so late? Why not get the jump right when he clinched the nomination?
Well, because look, there is a method that the Democrats and the media like to do to Republicans post-convention, and that is to throw egregious allegations out to the Republican candidate and try to knock them out of the race, essentially right after the convention. And Mr. Trump's not going to do that. And also,
but see, the question was why not get out there before the convention? So, translation, you decided to waste 5.5 weeks before the convention and not do jack shit. And now you're going to try to blame the media and act like, well, the media was going to get out there and attack them. Well, if they were going to do that, they were going to do that anyway. But the utilization of 5.5 weeks of time, in my mind, is poor management. And Mr. Trump is supposed to be the super businessman. Poor tactics.
So Mr. Trump is a different kind of Republican, which means he's actually going to fight back, and that's what you're going to see. Traditionally, you are absolutely right. He should be spending hundreds of millions of dollars in ads that really turn nothing. In the last cycle, there was $500 million of ads run, and they lost. Mr. Trump is being smart about this strategy. We're going to move forward, and he's going to win in November.
All right, Katrina Pierson, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Katrina Pierson strikes again. No substance, all spin, and quite a few lies.